Today, we're talking to a guy who launched an online business during the pandemic, not only to make a profit, but to help local business owners in his native country of Jamaica. Welcome to the Inspired Money Podcast, where we explore positive money stories. I'm Andy Wong, your host and financial advisor at Runnymede Capital Management. If you want to shift your perspectives on money and use your money for good to make a bigger impact in this world, you're in the right place. Please subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of future videos. We publish interviews like this one every Tuesday. This week, I get to introduce you to my friend, Everold Reid. He and I have been in a weekly mastermind with Angel Jones, who you may remember was a guest on Inspired Money episode 101. I really admire Everold. He's a consistent top 1% sales professional and has been one of Canada's top auto sales leaders for over 30 years. He's author of The Reid Method, a blueprint for achieving sales mastery. He's host of the Reid Method Insider podcast. Everold is not only hardworking, he is one of the most giving and generous individuals that I know. In this episode, you're going to get insights into buying a car in 2021 from a sales insider. You're going to hear how to create a customer experience that can transform you from salesperson to trusted advisor. And if you're saying to yourself, hey, wait a minute, I'm not a salesperson. I did interview Ryan Serhant a couple of years ago, and he told me that we are all salespeople, whether we like it or not. So it's all of us. And then listen to the end to hear about Everold's startup company that's elevating small business owners in Jamaica. Now let's get inspired with Everold Reid. Everold, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Well, Andy, it's a pleasure to be here indeed, my friend.
Let's jump right in.
Yeah.
What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
I think there was one like when I was 7 or 8, and the first touch of entrepreneurship when I was baking. I was in Jamaica, South Manchester, Jamaica, and I followed my great grandmother's example, and I was baking and selling the stuff I was baking as a young kid. So I was literally selling and collecting money since I was like 7 or 8.
What were you baking?
This was like sweet potato pudding, cornmeal pudding, coconut cakes. They call it drops. And these are things I literally learned how to make in Jamaica while just watching my great grandmother and my aunts make it. And it just became second nature. And I remember baking and selling in the summer. Like, it's just unbelievable.
You're making me hungry. Everold, I know that you've been in automotive sales for a very long time. You have the Reid Method, like sales program. You have the Reid Method Insider podcast.
Yep.
Definitely an expertise in sales. What did you want to do when you were a kid?
Definitely nothing to do with sales. I literally wanted to fly an airplane. I wanted to be a pilot so bad. It hurts every time I see an airplane. And it's still an all-inspiring passion. And it's just the path, those career paths, you make certain decisions. And, I got into the automotive space early when I was like 19, barely, and got a taste of making money. And then, by the time I was 25, I was a father, and then all your priorities kind of just changed, because I'm like, okay, I do want to be a pilot, but now how am I going to do that with a kid and all these other responsibilities? And, you won't make a lot of money initially. So I kind of, but while I was going through that, my career in the automotive space kept, improving. I became a manager at a very young age and started making more money and so on. So it was kind of contented. I was in a comfort zone financially, but mentally always wanted to be a pilot.
Is there a tinge of regret having taken that sort of fork in the road away from becoming a commercial pilot?
Yeah, I think about it literally every day. Like, every time I'm on an airplane or I see an airplane, I can identify what the airplane is, and I know what's going on when I'm sitting in my passenger seat. I know exactly the procedures that are going through. I understand the physics of airplane and all that stuff, the theory of flight. I love the theory of flight. So I do have some regrets, but then sometimes you say, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be that way. Maybe I had more impact with people down this route that I am. And I'm still looking to see if that's the case, because it's been 30 years. But I have a little bit of regrets, but I'm not crying over it every day. I still fly. I learned to fly as a private pilot, so I still have my feet in it somewhat.
Was sales a natural fit for you? At 18 or 19, it's something that I think it was a summer job.
Yes.
And it became a career.
Yeah.
And you have excelled. Is it something that you've enjoyed?
There are certain aspects of sales that I enjoy. I actually, my most favorite parts are, interaction with clients at the negotiating table. Right. And for me, that's more educated. That's more the part where my expertise comes across, where I'm able to educate consumers on the best ways to acquire the vehicles that they're looking for. A typical car salesperson or salesperson in general goes just for the sale, just, goes into closing and trying to, get a deal. And, you get a lot of one-shot deals like that, but you don't build sustainable long-term success. Which is what I've been able to do by building relationships, solving customers' problems, listening intently, creating solutions that actually improve their lives, and not just sets up the deal that I'm selling today, but sets up the future deals for repeat business.
I feel that you do not fit into the stereotypical auto sales person. Is that fair?
Well, it's I have ideas of what the stereotypical auto salesperson is. I've never been that guy, never necessarily thought of sales in that respect. So when I hear about it, it's actually the reason I created my courses, so that I can teach other people how to be better at sales, not just in automotive, but at sales in general, because sales really comes down to helping clients to solve their problems, creating solutions that improve their lives, that then, allows them to form a relationship with you, and they leave this transaction feeling that it's now a relationship as opposed to just a deal that was made. And that's how you can transform a career. That's how you can transform organizations, because then your clients buy into you. They buy into your concept, your philosophy, your business, and they come back as repeat clients. They refer people, and that's how you build sustainable sales careers and businesses.
Well, the thing that stood out to me is that you say that perhaps you enjoy most sitting down at the negotiating table with your clients. That makes me cringe. And probably most listeners, they're like, sitting down to negotiate the car is the least favorite thing any of us want to do. But yeah, I noticed that in the way that you're speaking, it sounds like you're sitting on the same side of the table as your client. You're not on the opposite side of the table in this negotiation.
No, I don't make it about me versus them. It's never, my side versus your side of the table. It's about, tell me what the issues are. Tell me what the problem you're trying to solve is. Because whether that's an SUV or a car or a fuel economy or space or towing, you have to listen to these needs, and you also have to listen to the financial side of it. And most of the clients I sell, and especially in our dealership, most of the vehicles we sell, clients do not end up purchasing the vehicle the way they thought they were going to when they left their home. Okay, because there's a whole education process, and this is where the industry suffers a lot, because too many dealerships, salespeople, management, ownership. The process, the philosophy is take the deal the quickest way you can get it. So if a customer comes in and says, I want to buy cash, and you give them a big discount, and they feel that they've gotten a great deal, or you've structured a 96 months finance where they're paying for a car as long as they pay for a mortgage, but the payment is super low and they go home and they think they got a great deal, where in fact it was not the best way to structure the deal, okay, or may not have been. And that's where I'm fundamentally different, is that I advise clients on the best ways to acquire the vehicle, so that at the end of it, they say, yeah, well, you told me to do this, and this makes sense. And this is often what I hear from clients, is that, you know what, we never thought about it that way, but now that you've shown it to us, it makes a lot of sense. And that's really where my comfort and satisfaction comes from.
It sounds like you go above and beyond. I mean, one is your ability to listen to a client's needs. Mm-hmm. And I can say from the consumer side, I feel like most of the car sales people that I've dealt with, they weren't very good listeners. I never felt it was a pleasant experience. I always came away with, I'm glad I got my car, and I'm glad that I don't have to do that for another 10 years.
Yeah, and it's a two-way situation. Like I sometimes blame, the blame is on both sides, in my opinion. And I can speak to that from 30 plus years in automotive sales and management. And so I've not just sold. I've been a general sales manager. I've been an owner of a used car dealership. I've done it on all sides. And this is a business I understand upside down, backwards, sideways. And fundamentally, salespeople, there's a large segment of dealerships, the retail side of it, that they are not educated enough to handle the demands or the requirements of today's consumers. And today's consumers think they know what's right, but they actually often do not. Okay. And then if you get a consumer that thinks they know everything based on what they've read on social media, YouTube, research, and they've gone in and met a salesperson or a management team that is really stuck one way of doing business, you're not going to come out with the best solution. Or if you do, it's going to be after a long, arduous process. Whereas if even whichever consumer you get that comes in, whether an educated, open-minded, hard negotiator, but you meet an educated salesperson that offers alternatives and slows the process down and becomes an advocate as opposed to a sale or, the opposite, it just changes the dynamic of the whole conversation. So the outcome depends largely on the relationship, and the relationship depends largely on the listening and the understanding of both sides.
Everold, how has the internet changed your business over the last 30 years, like your day to day? I know that for me, the last 2 or 3 cars I've bought, I've emailed maybe 8 or 10 dealerships, knowing exactly what model and make I wanted, what options I wanted, and they quoted me a price. I went with the lowest price in most cases, or what was convenient for me, and I pretty much just went to go pick up the car. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way to buy an automobile today, or am I better off doing it differently in working with a person?
I think long-term, it's better working with a person. Okay. If you want a deal, if all you're looking for is, let's say, the most convenient way for someone to bring it to your door, or for price quotes to come to you right at your, at your doorstep or your desk, that is okay. That is okay to a certain extent. But I think for more sustainable, long-lasting benefits in relationships, because the relationships matter in a dealership, okay? When you have problems with your vehicle, or you need service issues, or you have questions to answer, buying it over the internet and not having a direct relationship with someone can have its downsides. So I can tell you, the clients that I deal with, and many from 25 years ago, 20 years ago, And most from the last 9 years since I've been back at the dealership, these are largely the same clients that come back to me every time. And what they like about the relationship that we've built and the understanding that they've gained through dealing with me is that I'm their guy. If they have an issue, they call, or I'm the one that will solve their problem before they even occur. Okay. And salespeople, the automotive space doesn't operate that way. And it's a fundamental flaw in growth potential and how they have long-term sales and exponential sales and create a customer base so that they can grow exponentially. It's something that's missing a lot in dealerships is a philosophy of, okay, where is the foundation? How do you establish the foundation? And then how do you grow with new clients by building these relationships, offering the right solutions?
Well, thank you for indulging me in these behind the scenes car dealership questions.
I know it's not car dealership like talk, trust me, because this is not what people expect.
On
right?
the car sale, margins are pretty low. I think my understanding is that margins are lower than one thinks, that most of the profit is made on service these days. So
100%.
Does it matter? Like when I'm sitting down at the table in negotiating, the fear from the consumer standpoint is always like, I'm going to get taken. And I feel like maybe in the past, the margin was much bigger and maybe you were getting taken. These days, I feel like, does that happen less often? No. Because there's just not enough room?
Yeah, you're just not going to be taken. It's not going to be, whether you pay $1,000 more or $1,000 less for the car, doesn't mean you got taken. It means the dealership made a little bit more money within the margins, and the margins are set. So if it's a new car, you cannot exceed the MSRP, okay, off that car in any legitimate country, right? Like, with rules, like in Canada, you can't go 1 cent over the MSRP. And the margins are not that great. You're talking 8 to 10% for the average car, maybe a little bit more in premium brands. So on a $40,000 car, if they sell it at full price, they could make $4,000. But that's at face value. There are also a lot of other incentives built in, such as loyalty incentives, which takes away from that margin. So if you're a repeat client who's refinancing, releasing with the same manufacturer, sometimes there's some cooperative incentives that the dealerships participate in, and that comes out of that margin. And then, so it's hard to get a bigger discount along with loyalty, along with rebates, so you have all these different levels of incentives. You can have a manufacturer's rebate, you can have a lower interest rate, you could also have a loyalty incentive. So by the time you're done, there's 3 to 4 levels of incentives that you can collectively get. So I know our loyal clients who are repeat clients, number one, we'll get a discount, we'll get a loyalty incentive, we'll get sometimes a rebate if the manufacturer offers that. And the thing about it, Andy, is most of our clients, when you establish a good sales model in a dealership and relationships with clients, the clients that you deal with on a repeat basis do not ask for discounts. They actually do not shop. They do not ask for discounts because they're leaving it to you to take care of them. And this is, I know, hard for a lot of people to swallow, but a discount doesn't mean you got a good deal. Okay. And too many people, the business is like that. The structure of your deal, the absolute structure, you could get a $4,000 discount off a car. The dealership's making no money. But if it's on the wrong structure, if it's on a cash or a finance structure versus certain types of leasing structures, you could actually be better off not paying cash for a car or not financing it long term versus leasing if the structure is explained and set up right. So
you can advise your clients to really make the best choice that they may not have been aware of.
They may not have been aware of. And then that way, now this client becomes, you become that trusted advisor. You become that said, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Then the next vehicle we reach out to these clients proactively. We don't wait for clients to call. Like 9 years ago, when I returned to the auto space, the last thing I wanted to do was to wait for clients to come into the door for the phone to ring. So I created proactive systems where we're, if a client is in a 4-year lease, 5-year finance, 6-year finance, whatever, we are in their faces in, every 2 years, 2.5 years, saying, here's an opportunity to upgrade. And the thing about that, Andrew, is that our clients became now conditioned to this process. And most of them actually like getting a new car every 2.5, 3 years instead of 4 or 5 years, because there's less maintenance, there's newer technology, there's more safety. Oftentimes we can keep their payments at around the same. Sometimes we can even lower their payments. And they're not thinking about this until we say, hey, here's an opportunity to possibly upgrade your vehicle to 2 or 3 years newer, keep your payment around the same, or possibly save you a little bit of money. Here are the benefits: lower fuel economy, more safety, etc. What do you think? And most people will actually say, yeah, let's think about that. Let's take a look at that.
Well, maybe we're playing on the same team. I mean, as a financial advisor, there are a lot of bad financial advisors running around. There are a lot of bad car sales people running around, and kind of tarnishes the good name.
Yeah.
So I hear that, you're really doing similar things that I'm doing, and that's trying to advise clients to make the right choices for them and trying to bring that win-win together. Both sides benefit.
And it's not just the right, like you don't make a decision from a financial planning perspective about just what's good today, right? You're making that decision about the advice and the structure that you're setting up today is for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, or even beyond. Where when I do a car deal, it is structured. I've already literally set up the next deal in 3 years, okay, or 2 years. And we've already even mentioned it. Most clients will leave, a lot of my repeat clients who are picking up a brand new car today will say, okay, Everold, we'll see you in 2.5, 3 years, or we'll see you in 2 years for the next one, right? Because they've become conditioned and they now like the process that, you know what, I'll drive this car, my payments are fine, a new technology will come out, Everold will call me when it's time. And it's one problem they don't have to think about. They don't have to think about buying a car, right? Because they know that their dealership or that guy or that lady has that problem solved.
There's so many things I want to ask you. Just one more question about cars, because I know that you have built a reputation for not only serving your clients well, but being brought into dealerships that are struggling.
Yeah.
Because you're able to turn them around, and you've done that. What can be included in the process, like these things that you're talking about? What can be built into like a system that a dealership can follow so that those turnarounds can happen?
Well, there are a lot of things that dealerships do poorly, frankly speaking, because a lot of it is based on, 20 years, 30 years ago philosophies, and they have not evolved as the consumers have or as the automobiles have, right? And one of the things I wrote in my book where, the facilities became big and ultra modern and fancy and a whole bunch of glass. The cars have technologies that you can drive themselves, and do everything. But the sales process is still the same from 20, 30 years ago, right? And I'm like, what the hell's up with that? Like, what is missing? So part of solving the problems for dealerships is changing the whole philosophy and understanding what consumers think and how they're thinking, and how best to literally from the very initial greeting, change the perspective and to change the expectations of what that client will be leaving with. So you can always go ahead and show them the car, do a test drive and all the basic stuff that you need to do or may need to do. And even today, clients don't test drive as much as they used to because they've done a lot of research. Okay. But when you sit down with them or when you're emailing them back and forth and you're offering solutions, it's about transparency, number one. So you have to be transparent, and dealerships need to adopt a principle that, okay, I have a customer base. This customer base that I have is not a one-shot deal customer base, right? Where there are largely finance or there are largely cash deals and very few leasing deals. So dealerships will sometimes try to reach out to the leasing customers or that side of the portfolio to try to upgrade them. But what they need to do is to convert a lot of the cash deals and finance deals more to leases, so that there's a bigger customer base of potential repeat and referral business, okay, and target that. But many dealerships and many sales reps and managers are frankly scared of offering a leasing as an alternative, because they're not educated enough, they're not confident enough, and they feel that they will blow up the deal or lose the deal because they confuse the issue. So largely is educating these dealers that if you are educated enough to offer the right solutions and to not confuse the customer in the process, you actually will create a bigger base, just like you have a portfolio base. And then you can from there multiply that base, because you've looked after 10 people. Those 10 people say, you know what, the easiest process I had was this guy, just go to him. You know, you don't have to do much. He'll just take care of it for you. And that multiplies. That's how you get your used cars in 2 to 3 years. That's how you get finance business, parts business, service business. Like, it's just, it feeds the dealership. And I've built models that literally shows if you increase your leasing by 10% per salesperson annually, that literally leads to $3 to $4 million in 3 years in the same dealership.
Yeah, steady business with a more long-term outlook rather than being short-term and transactional.
Yeah.
So the book for the listener is The Reid Method, a blueprint for achieving sales mastery.
Yes.
I'll put that in the show notes. I know that, I mean, you're talking about like taking a step back and looking at how the industry is changing and how the sales process needs to change as well. I know that personal development is really big for you. And I've heard you say that that kind of came to you later in life. How has personal development, how is that impacting your life?
Well, personal development to me, it's something that I actually teach now because I believe it's so vital in my sales mindset principles course, as well as my leasing courses. I believe it's fundamental to growth. It's fundamental to even realizing who you really are as an individual, because you'll never able to really truly identify your capabilities, your inner capabilities, if you don't invest in yourself. And that's whether that's a little bit of exercise, whether that's eating right, changing your diet, and reading books or research. And I never thought that, you know, I would get used to reading books, and then I discovered Audible, right? And then because of Audible, I have read quite a few titles now. I think I'm close to 40 titles, okay? 40 books that I've read, and I have definitely read all or listened to all of them at least 3 to 4 times. So I do this while I'm driving, and you're no extra time. So whether you're riding the bike, working out, you know, grocery shopping, cooking, driving somewhere. So I consume these books as I do other things. So it takes no extra time out of my day to learn and to invest in myself. And I encourage people to do that.
Everold, you could just be selling cars or managing salespeople and be content with that. How does the personal development, how does that influence your sort of doing new projects, which include like sales courses and speaking, and you have the Reid Method Insider podcast? How does that personal development, like investing in yourself, cause these other projects to like into fruition?
Well, it makes you realize that, number one, with proper time management, for example,
I struggle with that.
Well, me too. I think I do too, but lately I've been doing better with it, because when I look back and say, oh yeah, I do have these things that I've actually done, you know, so, but the personal development has allowed me to manage time and to set bigger goals and to really, because you know what the book did, and the book opened so many doors, right? So
The book that you wrote.
the Reid method. So what people will realize is, I actually didn't, when I wrote the book, it wasn't necessarily to become an author, but obviously you become an author by publishing a book, right? By nature. And that came with a lot of notoriety that I didn't necessarily expect, and a lot of recognition. And then through the recognition, a lot of higher expectations, and like, and then someone said to me, my social media manager, she said, well, you need to do webinars, or you need to do a podcast, or you need to do something. And I said, okay, I don't know what a webinar is, I don't know what a podcast is back then. And we started the podcast, which she set up for me. And 81 episodes later, and some really top world renowned guests later, it's
Evan Carmichael, Todd Stottlemyre, Steve Benson. You've talked to some Les Brown.
Yeah. And
some amazing guests.
Yeah, exactly. And so it opens doors. So I never really said, okay, I'm going to do podcasts, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this business, I'm going to make these courses. But what you realize is, when you do something like that, or you publish a book, or you publish a paper, or you start a podcast or something, other doors open for you, right? Where people are saying, well, can you come on my show? Because we like to talk about your book. We like to share your book. And all these people were calling me and saying, hey, we'd like to get you on our show. We'd like to do this. But it adds credibility for me, because I can say, well, not only have I practiced it, I'm still doing it. I'm still selling at a high level today. I can write the book. I'm teaching it to other dealerships and to other businesses, not just automotive stores. I've taught in other sectors. I've lectured I lectured a couple of colleges as well in business and sales. And I speak to other sectors. So that's what it's done for me, is the personal development has led me to a path to realize that I can open more opportunities, but you have to start. You have to start somewhere. And whether that's with a book, whether that's with a show, whether that's with writing an article, whatever your love is, whatever you want to do, once you put that foot forward, you realize, the book is why I'm on your show, because everything started with that book, right? That's how I met Angel. Everything started with, if I hadn't published a book, I would be nobody to our mutual friend Angel. Like, there would be no reason to look me up, right? Or to communicate with me.
So the book opened a lot of doors.
A lot of doors.
You have mentored, or you mentor younger salespeople. Mm-hmm. What advice do you give them? Do you tell them that they should write a book, or do you tell them that they should invest
in themselves,
the money to take a sales course like you offer?
Yes. If you're in sales and you think you have been successful, whether you're selling 40 cars a month and making $300,000-$400,000 a year, which is like top dollars for highly effective salespeople, if you actually invested in yourself and took a couple other courses, whether that's time management, business courses, other sales organizational courses, you truly will never realize your full potential. So I didn't realize that, okay, I could do a podcast, I could write, I could lecture at colleges, I could travel and give speeches, I could still work at a dealership full time. Like, how do you do that, right? Unless you have some time management skills, unless you have a little bit of organizational skills, and you have some
team building.
You have systems and team building. You have some sort of structure, and as you know, that I have another startup company as well. So all that is, it makes my head dizzy now, Andy. There's too much to think about.
Okay, let's talk about this startup, because it's something really cool and it's something quite new. So I feel like our listener can benefit by hearing you talk about what you're doing at an early stage. Like
Yeah.
it's you're at a point where it's not like 10 years from now and you say, I've got this big business and people don't know how to start. Like they can't look at your story and figure out, how am I going to get started? You're in it right now.
Yeah, I'm actually starting it right now. It's 3 months old, so that's how old that. So no, November 7th, so December, January. Not even 3 months. It's 2.5 months old.
And this is a great story. Yaahdy.com.
So yaahdy.com, yaahdy.com. And this is
well, you got to tell people where you're from originally first.
Yeah, so I'm Jamaican born. I'm sitting here in just outside of Toronto, Canada, where I live and work. And yeah, so Jamaican roots for sure. I love Jamaica. Always, love going back. And
did your family, they left Jamaica for Canada?
My mom.
Better opportunities?
Yes, my mom did initially, and then I came after to join her. So that's how that story went. And while I was there in Jamaica, I was living with my great-grandmother and my aunts at the time.
How long were you separated?
We were separated initially for about 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So pretty much my early childhood. I think she left when I was probably less than a year old, and I saw her I saw her in between with her visits, but I lived with her again when I was 10. Okay. And there's the little story there is too that didn't initially work out. Me living all of a sudden going to live with her, 8 years later.
That's a big change.
That's a big change because I didn't actually get along with my stepdad. And I actually, after a year, I went back to Jamaica, if you can believe that. I went back to Jamaica at age 11 to complete high school. And I did high school there at Wolmer's Boys School in Kingston, which is a really well-known boys school. There's a boys and girls school. And I did high school there until I was 15 or 16 or something. And I think it was 15. And then right when I was done high school, I came back to Canada.
So beyond your baking and selling baked goods, what was the money situation like? I'm just curious from the perspective of it's like an immigrant to Canada, but then you went back and then you were doing some back and forth.
Yeah, I did a bit of back and forth. So the money situation, I mean, initially there wasn't much to deal with, right? It's just living, week by week with family. I really didn't take care of a lot of money back then, but I remember getting my first real job in Kingston, where before the year, just before coming back to Canada, my uncle has always been in the printing industry, and he got me a job in Kingston at the printing firm that he worked at. And I remember kind of getting my first substantial, sums of money, and I invested it well because initially, it paved the way for me to return to Canada, like between, buying a suit to wear or clothes to wear and stuff like that. So that money went into that to returning back to Canada.
Okay, so you have deep roots in Jamaica, having grown up like really 8 to 10 years in Jamaica.
And then high school for 5, and then I came back here.
And then going to Canada, where it is very cold compared to Jamaica.
Yeah, and it's snowing today too. So.
So tell us, how did this dream of Yaahdy, how did it start?
Okay. So Yaahdy, the concept of Yaahdy, I thought of back in 2018. Okay, I thought of it in 2018, and I literally created these files that I have, and I wish I could probably pull one up right now. Actually, I can. So, let me see if I have the Yaahdy. Yeah, I do. So, in 2018, I created this file that said Yaahdy. Okay, and I created a couple other files as well. For my automotive course side, like my first 100 clients or something like that. But anyways, the Yaahdy one is more visible. And so I thought of 3 companies back then, 2018. And I thought, okay, I know these folks. First I thought throughout the entire Caribbean, not just Jamaica, there's so many people from the countryside, from deep in the islands, that have some of the very, very best talents, okay, that largely are undiscovered for their entire lifetimes. Okay. They can make some of the finest art, whether it be clothing, whether it be sandals, leatherware, jewelry, whatever. Okay. Coffee, farmers, spices, but nobody knows about them. Right. And all they will ever do, they go through the entire lifetimes. I've seen it where they sell to the local markets, they sell to the city, and they go home and that's it. But if they're so good at making stuff, natural stuff, organic stuff, stuff from home, how do we get them exposed to the international markets? And I thought okay, instead of, them going undiscovered and the tour and just dependent on tourism to come to the shores, for example, what happened if that were taken away? And I thought of going the opposite, where I'll bring the talent to the world instead of the world going to see the talent, okay, and the products. And then I let that sit. I didn't do anything with that until literally September, October of 2020, when COVID was in full swing. And I'm like, there's no tourists going there. There's no ships. There's no nothing. So these people are literally sitting there. The vendors that were depending on this, the islands, are just suffering because it's their number one industry in most islands. And and in Jamaica, for example, it was, usually 3 to 4 million tourists annually, $7 billion US in money going through there. The average tourist spending $600 or $700 US, and that's gone. Right. So how do I help to bring, help these vendors who, like one craft market, for example, they has 250 shops and there were only 8 open. Okay. Everybody else gone home. So I just thought, okay, let me create a platform to showcase their products, their good products and quality products to the world. And that's how I created the concept of, Yadi, where we reached out to certain vendors. We say, hey, what do you have? How about this concept of us displaying your products online like you've seen, showcasing it to the world, but telling your story. This is not just about slapping products on there, made all over the world. It's authentically sourced, organically grown, whatever, made at home, made at yard, so to speak. And we are going to not just show your products, but we're going to show you, show you off to the world. We're going to show your inspiration, show your story. The concept was not just products, but okay, how do we show the products properly? How do we tell the story? How do we include the vendors? How do we show the inspiration? How do we get more vendors? How do they get paid? So it's a full solution that they won't be able to solve. Like, they can't collect credit card payments. They can't, figure out shipping and logistics. They can't figure out packaging or any of that. Advertising, marketing. And so my team and I basically, with my direction, we basically said, okay, let's figure out how to solve these big problems, how to collect payments, how to get money to them directly into their local Jamaican bank accounts seamlessly, no fees. Okay, how to get their products to us so that we can distribute it. And we figured it out with a few initial vendors. And now we're almost at 200 products by the end of the day. 12 or 13 actual vendors on there. We have tons more to add. We will probably be at 100 vendors and 1,000 products in the next 6 months. And then we'll go from there to other islands.
So was it the pandemic that
it triggered it? Yeah. The pandemic triggered it because I literally got up one day. I'm like, hang on a second. There's no tourism going there, right? These people are literally, left hanging for the foreseeable future. And I reached out to a friend of mine who usually drives, he's one of my drivers there, and he's in the city. He usually takes tourists to their hotels and whatnot. And I said, do you know any vendors there at the craft market? He goes, yeah, I know somebody there. And the one person found us 3 others or 4 others. So all it took was one. And the one found 4. And between those 4, we almost had 200 products.
This may be a silly question. How has this been received by the vendors in this crazy time?
Well, I think the vendors, okay, The response has been off, like simply overwhelming and authentically they've been overjoyed in they realize that them as a local vendor are now having an international presence because they see the videos that we've created of them. They see the promotions of their specific products, Facebook, Instagram, on the website, videos, emails, whatever. They see the campaigns. We include the vendors in everything that we're doing. We show them some of the campaigns. We show them some of the videos. We show them some of the links. We keep them up to date. So they're included in the process and they share the excitement with their contacts, right? So they have actually responded quite favorably and have referred numerous other vendors and friends. So we've created a vendor referral program too, so that vendors can refer other vendors that are qualified, and we vet these vendors. So we don't just accept anyone actually or any product.
So this is a business. It's not a not-for-profit, but I would call it a social enterprise because you are helping local artisans and business people on the island of Jamaica, where, as you mentioned, they would have a limited market to sell into because they're on an island. Yep. And now you're trying to open that up to the world.
To the world, yes.
How does that make you feel, Everold?
Well, it makes me feel good that the process can work, and it makes me feel good that when you think of an idea, and you implement the plan and you kind of work it, and you will have some mistakes and you will have to pivot and you will have to make other adjustments as you go, that it can work. That if you put a plan in place and you make some notes and you write things down and you try to get the right people on board, the right team. I think I've been very fortunate. The 4 people on the team initially, they bought right in, just like the vendors.
How did their responsibilities break out?
So I have, so in Jamaica, I have a business development person who I've trained how to seek out and find vendors. And she's done a phenomenal job, and she's brought out some top quality vendors. And then in Canada, we have the designer who looks after the website and edits videos and graphics and stuff. And then we have a product and service manager she looks after the copywriting and the description of the products and uploading the products to the site. She's also been communicating with the vendors to ensure that we have all the product details and pictures and whatever the resources we need to properly showcase them. And we don't add anyone to the site unless we have all the right information. We have the content, we have the images, we have the media, we have, the copyright and descriptions of their products. And she looks after that. And I think I have another. Oh yeah, I have a coordinator, the shipping coordinator. So we've discovered quickly that on the island, there's a courier service through Knutsford Express, and there's another one as well. I forget what it's called, where wherever you are on the island, if you become a vendor, you can literally, just for a few dollars, $5-6, have your product shipped to the depot where my shipping coordinator collects everything and packages it and ships it to us.
Well, I'm so excited about Yachty. And in full disclosure, I have bought spices. I bought turmeric, but there are so many great products. There are hand-carved wooden products, which are really one-of-a-kind products.
Yeah.
There are spices, there are coffees, there are all kinds of gifts that if somebody's looking for a gift and they want something that is a little bit different, and know that when they buy it, it's not just buying from the shopping mall. You're actually benefiting a family and business owner on the island of Jamaica. Since this is the Inspired Money podcast, and you've made money by selling cars, you continue to sell cars. You've also sold sales courses, and now you have Yachty. How does that shape your view of money? Like, does making $1 with Yachty feel different than making $1 selling a new Lexus?
Yeah, selling a new Lexus is primarily, income for me, right? Making $1 with Yachty is, 70% of that dollar is is going to the vendor directly. Okay, so that's a cool thing about Yachty is you're actually buying the products directly from the vendors. We communicate with them. Even this morning, two of them communicated with me. They have been so conditioned that literally they'll call in and check in or send a message to say, hello, how's everything going? Just to keep in touch. So yeah, earning $1 with Yachty is definitely that I'm earning it for them, or they're earning it, through Yachty. And I can't wait till that's multi-millions of dollars where, that money is going to 1,000 different people on the island to help their families, to help sell their products and, to impact an economy, because eventually the goal is to impact lives, multiple lives, thousands of lives, which in turn impact a country's economy.
I look forward to the day when your vendors are all living in like mansions.
Well, they could be
in Jamaica.
If they're not already, but
with a photo of Everold Reid on the wall saying, this is the guy that made all of this happen.
Yeah. Well, our goal is literally to find the best talents from wherever they are and to showcase them and their products to the world and to make it seamless for them to be able to ship a product from Jamaica and it eventually gets to someone in the UK, the US, Canada, and eventually other parts of the world. So those are the 3 countries right now. We just shipped our first fulfillment to UK last night. And we've now done several in Canada, several in the US. We've even done one to Trinidad, to Mr. Angel, who we both know. And, pretty soon it'll be all over the world.
Well, it's really cool how you're using technology so that I in New Jersey can shop local in Jamaica and know that I'm making a positive impact to a community. And I can't even imagine how that feels, that is your community where you were, where you grew up. And like, that's home.
One of the biggest impacts was in December when we sent the first check out, or we made the first deposits into the vendors' accounts, right? Where we were like, okay, let's see if this even works, right? Because the bank says, oh, we have this global money transfer system, and you can transfer money from your Canadian accounts directly to Jamaican accounts, and there are no fees. I'm like, okay, that sounds too good to be true, but let's see if it works.
So it sounds like there is an element of you learning as you do. You don't have it all figured out.
Oh, no. There was a lot of talks. I had intended to do the bank in one way, and then the very bank that I called to do set up the accounts with said, no, go to this other bank because they have a better global system. And we set up the global system right here on my computer, where every month on the 15th, we can transfer money directly to the vendors' accounts.
That is so very cool. There had to be like a little bit of a happy dance going on in Jamaica too, because when the money hits the account, the vendor must say, my gosh, this guy really is telling the truth. We're going to make money from this.
Yeah, it's actually here. So February 15th, when we will probably be paying out 5 or 6 vendors in that one shot. It'll be the most at one time. The system allows us to do a minimum of $100 Canadian. So it doesn't do like $50, right? So some vendors had taken like 2 months to accumulate up to $100, but this was just the early stages, right? So once things snowball, like everybody will be getting hundreds and thousands of dollars eventually.
Yeah, this is just 3 months in. It's only just begun. I mean, you've been testing in that time.
It's all been tested, and now we're gonna, we sent money to the first vendor, actually a couple of vendors. Now we're gonna send money to like 5 or 6 vendors in the next on the next payroll run or the next run, and we'll it'll be great.
So exciting. And I'm enjoying my turmeric.
Good.
So, Everold, I'd like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
Oh my goodness. I define, success to me right now is sometimes in opening up a dream or a reality to other people, impacting other people's lives. So I think I could say that we've enjoyed some success recently by testing the system and literally dropping money in other vendors' accounts, and that's part of success. But my deep success would be scaling this exponentially. My deep success will be having some financial freedom. And financial freedom for me, I don't need to have $1 gazillion, but I need to be able to move around freely to impact more people's lives. And that would be success for me, where I can say, well, you know what? Instead of 5 or 6 people next month, it'll be 100 people. It'll be 100 vendors each month getting money in their accounts through Yadi. Or when I do some sales training at a dealership, it's that dealership saying to me, well, Everold, our leasing rate or our sales rate went up from 40% to 65% because of your systems. And being recognized for that, and having some financial freedom to have some time, because time is what I literally value most right now, is the time just to do the things that I like, such as flying airplanes, right? I haven't done that in a while, right? And I'm itching to get into the flight deck again, to fly. That will be the day I think, I'm truly successful, because I'm not having to be at the office to work. I don't need to sell a car to earn money, and I can take time off to go flying, and maybe to fly right to Jamaica.
Right, to go visit more vendors who are going to make you more money.
Exactly. That will be my ultimate day.
Well, I look forward to ordering some coffee soon, because you did not have that product on the website yet when I ordered.
Yes, Blue Mountain coffee. It's amazing. Okay. I literally have a whole box here, and it's just unbelievable. So this is
we should share with the audience that Everold has just returned from Jamaica, visiting vendors and doing outreach and bringing products back to Canada.
Yeah. So Jabby Coffee, this guy is super inspirational. He's probably, if I were to guess his age, probably in his late 60s, maybe even early 70s. And he's got a 100-acre farm in Blue Mountain. He's about 5,000 feet up above sea level. The tallest peak of Blue Mountain, which we learned in school, is 7,402 feet. Okay. So he's 5,000. He's 2/3 of the way up this farm. And, you learn a lot from him. Like, this guy's not farming for money. Okay. He's farming because of the love of farming and coffee. He's got about 50 employees that work with him seasonally. And it's just inspirational to be representing him and the local folks in Jamaica.
So you have to tell the Inspired Money listener where they can watch videos about some of the vendors that you have at Yadi and how to follow you. But thank you for sharing your sales and marketing expertise with us, as well as your very inspirational story with Yadi.com.
So, there are a couple of profiles. One, obviously, is the Reid Method, which we started out with. The Reid Method Insider is the podcast. ReidMethod.com is the website. And the whole Reid Method brand has Facebook, LinkedIn. So I'm all over LinkedIn as Everold Reid or the Reid Method. Okay, so that's that whole side, Instagram, Facebook. And then on the Yadi side, we definitely have the Yadi.com website, where you should all visit today.
YAAHDY.com.
Yeah, YAAHDY.com. Yadi. Like, enunciating the A's.
You got to say it with like a heavy Jamaican accent.
Yad. Right? Yad with the Y on the end. So Yahdy, YAAHDY.com. Anyways, so we've got the Instagram page for that. That's pretty cool. And we've got the Facebook page. And we've got the YouTube channel, right? So Yahdy.com, YouTube. You'll see the videos of these vendors on YouTube. Like we created the 4 initial vendors that we started out with. Trevor is the guy that is the carving. And we have Lisa, we have Sujan, the guy with the spices. We have several people on there.
Sujan's my guy.
Sujan's your guy, right? So you see, people are getting to know these vendors, right? It's just amazing, right? And Hyacinth is another one from the craft market. And between Hyacinth and Lisa, they together have close to 100 products on the site. So it's a great exposure for them to sell their various items. And all vendors so far, every single vendor that we've added to the site have had sales.
I love it. Well, thank you, Everold. We can
Yes, sir.
all either jump on a plane to go to the craft market, or we can just go to yahdy.com from, the comfort of our home, or our
Yes.
bed, or our
Yes.
or our office. So thanks so much, Everold.
Well, it's awesome, man. Thank you very much.
So what was your favorite inspired money moment? I really had fun talking about buying cars and getting sales tips today, but my favorite inspired money moment was hearing Everold talk about the difference between making $1 from selling a car versus making $1 with his new venture, Yahdy.com. With Yahdy, 70% of a sale is going directly to a vendor in Jamaica. Everold makes 30%, but the impact of helping local vendors on an island is truly impactful. If you had a different favorite inspired money moment, please let me know by leaving a comment below. I'll give you a shout out on a future episode. For watching until the end, I want to send you an Inspired Money sticker or button. Just send me your address by going to inspiredmoney.fm/Andy. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.